Do I want to be the person that all black women look at, like, you know, for 50 years after still hating Danny Glover? I can't believe you did that. Yeah. But I'm like, you know, hey, you know what? It serves a function, and it serves a function hopefully for healing and for change.
This was so hard of a role for me to watch you in because I love you so much as a person, and you transformed into someone that I just hated, and the entire time my mind was trying to make sense of that. And it really spoke to me about your talent and your ability to transform that way.
Thank you. I think we're tasked as actors to find the beating heart of even the most vile people. And I think that's what I was charged with. I have a function in this film. And that function, I have to divorce that part of myself. I have to serve this function for everyone else's function, especially for these women, right? For everyone else's evolution in some way, someone who's less evolved. You have to find what makes this person tick. But also you have to find out what makes this person vulnerable, hurt, want, need, desire, and then why people abuse people. That was a great opportunity to look into the heart of darkness. You do, because I feel like, you know, I think I'm a pretty happy, sensitive human being. Yeah, you know what I mean? So, and I know that, you know, of course, you know, maybe living in the shadows of, like, you know, do I want to be the person that all black women look at, like, you know, for 50 years after still hating Danny Glover? I can't believe you did that. Yeah. But I'm like, you know, hey, you know what? It serves a function, and it serves a function hopefully for healing and for change in some way.
And the dichotomy between your character and his son, Harpo, I think was also really stark and apparent, because we see Harpo, who's been raised by Mr., who's seen a lot of brutality and trauma, and at least to me still comes off very soft, very open and willing to love, and intent on at least trying to show more respect to the women in his life. What did it take for you to tap into that mentality, and how do you think you know, someone like your character was able to become that person when raised in this house?
Well, I think that Harpo actually sees the possibility of it in his father, right? I think he sees that his father actually really could have the capacity. And that's what's heartbreaking, is that, and he just can't. That because they don't have the language, that kind of thing. And back then, and to a certain extent,
We have it
don't think we have it now. On how to love, especially within our community, but also, whatever community come from, when you're talking about that father-son dynamic. And Harpo makes a choice to choose a different kind of love, and that's Sophia. Sophia puts a smile on his face. Sophia, Sophia, as he says in the musical, like, every time he sings her name, the smile comes on. So he sees what could have been between my father and Suge, Avery. Harpo makes a decision to stand on his manhood in a different way, and it doesn't make him any less than a man to allow her to lead.
Yes. Speaking of less than a man, I think that I was struck by how much of a difference this version is from the first movie, you know, when I was introduced to it as a child. And my understanding now of how black men at that time and why they might have been what we now consider brutal, abusive, and we know now how abused they were. And we also know that a reason is not an excuse.
That's
but I
true,
wondered what kind of weight or responsibility you felt you might carry in 2023 representing black men at that time in our country to this new generation who I think isn't as well versed in our history.
Well, this is why it was a great opportunity to re-examine, to actually really, I mean, of course it has to be coming from my perspective now. Now we have language for toxic masculinity or misogyny, things that they didn't have back then, or even probably in other iterations as well, that you want to explore, which is why I think that we were very careful to find these moments of nuance, of vulnerability, of accountability, and then for forgiveness, or the possibility of forgiveness. I think that that's what I was interested in, so it doesn't stand on the history of what people have seen or know before, whether it's the Broadway musical or anything. But also, we went back to the source material, to the book. And Alice Walker has given us so much. But then also, I would just say, even with what Marcus Gardley did with the screenplay, he was very interested. He's someone who I know was very interested in looking at tenderness and looking at possibilities of change and evolution, especially when it comes to black men.
That's why it's important when we do talk to people about this movie and do Q&As and all of these things, that we also as artists listen to what the audience is saying to us as well. This young lady came up after a screening with her friends, very young, and she had tears in her eyes because she felt like that right now this generation doesn't have, or her generation doesn't have, the language for love. But she was appreciative of this film because she felt anchorless, but she also saw that Celie, even back then, we didn't have that language. And so it's just about asking that question and knowing that you're not anchorless. You can find your way. You know, no matter what, you can get there. And that's the thing. Celie is on that path to redemption. Sorry, not redemption, forgiveness, you know, learning how to forgive. And I think Mr. is on that path to redemption and finding that as well. So we all working, we all getting there.